Greetings Internet and welcome to a slightly more overweight version of Crosshairs. My name is Randolph Ramsey. With me as always is Laura Parker and Mr. Dan Capini.
Are you referring to my weekend in the Hunter Valley where I just kept on eating?
I'm referring to my weekend over Easter where I ate a whole bar of those Dowrelly chocolates, like the big ones. I ate it over 4 days and I kind of feel a bit gross right now.
Just
but
breakfast.
Yeah. I had like
Dinner
a slice after every meal. And now I'm going to have to exercise and pay for it, which there's a tie to that because there's something on the show that relates to exercise, right, Dan?
Well, you're in real luck this week because we've got a look at EA's clone, well, not clone so much, but their version of Wii Fit Sports Active. We've also got our box on with Punch-Out for the Nintendo Wii and PlayStation 3 exclusive Fat Princess. We're also going to have a look at the first game of 2009 banned in Australia, news, charts, competitions. Plus, we're going to tell you our ideas for awesome anti-drug games. Stay tuned.
We're going to start the show by checking in with Laura Parker, who has her fingers on the pulses of the gaming world information interwebs, and is going to tell us all about the big news that's happening. Laura, hit it.
Okay, so the classification board may be down, but that doesn't mean the Australian classification board isn't hard at work banning more games. And unfortunately, the first title for 2009 to be banned is the first-person war fantasy shooter Necrovision. And Dan has more details in Ratings Watch, so stay tuned for that. Next up, more details on Assassin's Creed 2. We know the teaser site is already up, but it seems that a poster on Ubisoft's official forums has revealed a little bit more about the game, something which hasn't pleased the publisher. A Ubi admin immediately deleted the post, but not before GameSpot got its dirty little hands on it. Speaking about an upcoming article in Game Informer magazine, which will focus on Assassin's Creed 2, the poster revealed the game will be set in Renaissance-era Venice and will follow a new protagonist by the name of Ezio around Venice, as well as the Tuscan countryside. Now, if this sounds more and more like your ideal holiday, then listen to this. Ezio will also bump into a number of historical figures along the way, including the famed Machiavelli and the art patron boss Lorenzo de' Medici. He'll also be able to swim and apparently fly using one of Da Vinci's flying machines into something like 16 mission types that will come in the game. From Ubisoft to Nintendo, this week Nintendo President Satoru Iwata revealed that the Wii was facing difficulty in its home market of Japan after the PS3 outsold the console last month. Speaking at a press conference in Japan, Iwata blamed the Japanese character for the Wii's decline in sales, rightly pointing out that the people of Japan get tired of new entertainment more than they do anywhere else in the world. Iwata closed his speech by announcing that despite things looking dire, a price cut for the Wii is not the answer. Moving on from Nintendo to Microsoft, a new study by research firm Instat has revealed that Xbox Live is poised to bring in $1 billion worth of revenue a year for Microsoft by the year 2013. Instat used telephone and in-person interviews with console and handheld hardware vendors as well as game publishers to predict that console and handheld subscription services will grow by some 20% by the year 2013, a figure driven by the increasing penetration of broadband internet connectivity. And finally, news for this week, a University of Missouri researcher wants to use video games to fight the war on drugs. Associate Professor of Psychiatry Joel Epstein has received a $1 million grant from the National Institute of Drug Abuse to make a game about addiction targeted at kids. The game will attempt to show players the effects that drugs have on a person's brain and body, and will be tested in local area schools before it's released in 2 years' time. And moving on to charts for this week, no surprises here with Dr. Kawashima making a comeback into the charts at number 5, while Chinatown Wars continues to hold its strong position in front of Killzone 2 and Resident Evil 5. And that's it for Crosshairs News.
$1 million to make an anti-drug game, huh?
That gives me an idea.
It's pretty sweet money. I wonder what we could do.
You got Master Chief, right? He's a pretty burly dude, and he's got his hoe Cortana there on the ship. They get back to Earth, and because they've had a bit of a rough time, Cortana finds like rehab, or she gets better through drugs. Now she goes a bit off the tracks, and she turns into a crack whore, selling herself to anybody. And that pisses Master Chief off. So what he does is he goes on a mission to find out how he can fix her. And one day he's driving downtown Miami when he finds Al Pacino from Scarface giving her drugs, and that pisses him off. So what he does is he goes to Paradise City and challenges Al Pacino to a race. But you see, unlike in regular Burnout, he's got a warthog, so he just blows to hell. And at that point, that's when he saves the day, turns around and says, "Kids, don't do drugs."
Listen, I think we're going to have some copyright issues there.
Ratings watch time, and this week the following titles have been rated by the Classification Board of Australia. First up, Sega developed sports title Virtua Tennis 2009, the latest in the long-running franchise, which puts you on the court as superstars like Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, Maria Sharapova, and Venus Williams, has been rated G. It's smashing its way onto the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PC, and for the very first time, the Nintendo Wii, including support for Wii Motion Plus, on May 21st this year. In first, Sony Computer Entertainment's PlayStation 3 exclusive superhero action title has been this week rated M. If your idea of a good time is open world playground and over-the-top electrical powers, then you'll be happy to know it's due to zap Aussie shores in June this year. Final Fantasy IV The After Years has this week been rated PG. Only announced at GDC this year, which is the Game Developers Conference, details are still sketchy, but we know so far it's an original title and will be landing on Nintendo's WiiWare service, though no release date has been confirmed yet. And lastly this week, as we mentioned at the top of the show, Farm 51 developed title Necrovision was this week banned by the Australian Classification Board. Based on an alt-reality World War I era setting, this questionably accurate first-person shooter was due to see you fighting vampires and demons and was destined for the PC. The board is currently staying stum on the reason for the ban, but as always, we'll bring you a full update on GameSpot once we have information.
Okay, remember Pac-Man. Hells yeah you do, everyone knows Pac-Man. Okay, so think Pac-Man, but every time you eat one of those pills, you lose a life!
Look, it really doesn't sound like
Shut up!
fun. I mean, thanks for coming in, but...
Okay everyone, we're at the preview section of Crosshairs now. This week we're going to talk Punch-Out, do a little bit on EA Sports Active, and also do some Fat Princess. But before we get started, we're going to introduce a man who is getting hairier by the week, and that is Mr. James Kozanecki. How are you?
Good, how are you, Andy?
Like, we sort of subtly paid out on you on last week's show about the beard, and yet you're here.
Keep going, yeah.
Bigger and fuller.
That's what happens when you don't shave, apparently.
Wild West.
Yeah, you're remarkably resilient. And it's looking a bit red, actually.
Yeah, it's a bit weird like that, actually. So we'll see what happens next week.
So you don't colour that at all? That's all natural?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Organic. Once we...
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just point out we're not going to do the Fat Princess on the show?
No, we're not
going
going
to talk about it.
Yeah. Or maybe.
That'd be degrading to women.
We'll talk about this later. But anyway, our first preview for this week is Punch-Out for the Wii. That's why I have the Wii controls here. So Punch-Out basically is just the updated version of the old NES classic Punch-Out or Super Punch-Out, depending on which country
Mike Tyson
you
in
were
it?
from. Yeah, well, it was Mike Tyson's Super Punch-Out in some territories as well. So it's back, and it's for the Wii.
The obvious question here, Randy, I think everyone's wondering, how different is it to the original game?
It is basically exactly the same as the original game. So I guess the whole sort of game mechanic of you playing as the little boxer, Little Mac, is there. So the camera is positioned sort of slightly behind him, and he's sort of transparent, and basically you're taking on like this host of eccentric boxers from around the world, and a lot of the favorites from the original game make it back in there. So you'll have Glass Joe, you'll have the German Von Kaiser, you'll have the African American dude who's like a disco guy, and you'll also have King Hippo, who's like the really big fat guy you probably remember, who's like every time he threw a punch his pants fell down, which you'd think they'd wipe out because it's kind of inappropriate, but yeah, anyway, he's still there. And it's basically exactly the same as the old Punch-Out, apart from a graphical upgrade, obviously.
What about the controls, though? It's a Wii title. How much waggling are you going to have to do?
Okay, well, they give you a couple of options. Like, with a lot of the Wii remakes of recent games, they're giving you like a few options on how to actually control it. There's two main ways. The first, basically, is you can use the Wii remote and the nunchuck. And just like Wii Sports Boxing, where, each of these basically served as your fist, you can use these to, like, throw punches. You basically use the nunchuck analog stick here to do direction. So if you want to punch up, basically you click up on the stick. If you want to dodge left or right, you press left or right. If you want to dodge down, you press down. Or you can just use basically the Wii remote by turning it on its side and using the 1 and 2 buttons basically as your punch buttons.
Which one did you use?
I used both of these suckers. I actually liked the Wii remote and nunchuck because I know you guys played a bit of Wii boxing when it first came out on Wii Sports. And remember how you just basically flail around like a fool and you just go, ah! And that's basically, that was all the strategy behind Wii boxing. Right?
So it's a little more nuanced this time
It's a little bit more nuanced. You're actually limited to the number of punches you can throw per second. So it doesn't matter if you go like this, you'll only maybe throw like one punch within that time period. So it's actually a lot more nuanced, as you mentioned. So it's not about, throwing as many punches as you possibly can and looking like an idiot. It's actually about skill. And if you guys played the original Punch-Out, you know that all of the boxes you're facing actually has a bit of a tell, like a movement they'll do just before they throw a punch that you have to try and avoid. And you really, they still have those, and you have to have a really close look out for them to be able to dodge at the right time, because otherwise you'll just get smashed in Punch-Out.
Do we know if it's going to be supporting Wii Motion Plus yet?
No idea. I'm not quite sure about that one. I don't think it's probably needed though, because as you know, Wii Motion Plus actually has like a lot more sort of fine degree of movement.
Tilt.
Yeah, and this is just basically sort of punching. I mean, you can just do little jabs and it's still the same thing, or you can do bigger jabs. But I don't think it's really that required. But who knows?
Okay, so is there much else to this game?
Not really. I mean, I only played it quite briefly at our Game Developers Conference a month or so ago. So obviously there's a single player component, so no idea whether there's like any possibility for multiplayer or if there's like a story mode or anything else that will actually expand the original Punch-Out experience. So it's got the possibility that it could be quite shallow, but we'll have to wait for full review and a bit more detail to find out exactly what Punch-Out is going to hold in the box.
Okay, so when is this one out, Randy?
This game is out in May 18th in the US, which means for Australia there could either be a few days beforehand or next year
6 months
sometime.
after.
So that was Punch-Out for the Wii. I was okay with that because it didn't require too much physical dexterity. EA Sports Active, on the other hand, will actually make you exercise, so I wasn't really up for that. So we sent Laura Parker out at the recent launch of the game to check out what it's all about.
Okay, here we are at the launch of EA Sports Active, the personal training fitness game for the Wii. Now, before we have a quick chat to Ambassador and Olympic gold medalist Susie O'Neill about the game, I actually got some hands-on time with an 11-minute workout to test things out. Now, the first thing that's obvious is that this is no Wii Fit. There's no yoga here, folks. This is the real deal. It's been specifically designed with a Western audience in mind, and the aim of the game is to stick to a regimented routine that systematically works out your whole body, tones muscles, and help you drop the flab. Basically, it's a personal trainer in a box, and what's more, all the workout programs have been designed by Oprah's personal trainer. Okay, so there are 2 modes to the game. There's the 30-day challenge, which sees you doing a different workout routine, 2 days on, 1 day off. Or you can customize your own workout with a range of different exercises on an offer, but you actually do that after you've become a little bit more familiar with the game. There's also a split screen mode, so you can play with a friend. The game uses 3 things: the Wiimote, the nunchuck, a resistance belt, and a nunchuck strap, the latter 2 which come with the game. Now, the Wii balance board can be used, but it's not necessary. It offers a slightly different experience by taking some of the exercises and switching them around. For example, you can balance on what foot if you like, but that's not necessary. Okay, so here I go with the 11-minute workout. I start things off with some light boxing, hitting the targets with the Wiimote. Now, it's the resistant belt in action with the bicep curls. It adds resistance and makes you feel like you're lifting a really heavy bag of potatoes, so I'm struggling a bit. Notice that I'm using the Wiimote and the nunchuck at the same time. Now, as you progress through the workout, things start to get nasty. Now, I'm only on easy difficulty here. You can pick from easy, intermediate, and hard, but I'm already struggling with these arm curls and punches. Now it's time to use the nunchuck strap for the lunges. You simply shove it in to your nunchuck strap and away you go. Now you don't need the Wiimote for this exercise. The nunchuck simply measures how your lower body is performing. Now to break up the muscle toning, I'm presented with a sport minigame. It's inline skating and I have to bend low in a butt crunch and jump up at the right moment. Believe it or not, this is actually really damn hard and I'm having difficulty holding the crunch. And this is only on beginner. I so can't do this. Next up is a tennis game. It's slightly redundant. You just hit the balls and the targets. It's nothing new, and I can't really feel any of my muscles getting a workout. Then it's back onto the hard stuff with squats. Now, I hate squats, and nunchuck goes back in my leg, and away I go, and seriously, it's so hard. You have to hold the squats for a really long time, and after 3 or 4, I just can't do it, and I have to do like 40 or something. And I'm only on easy. Either I'm really unfit or this game is too hard. Anyway, guys, that's my workout, but don't take my word for it. Here's Susie O'Neill. So you've had the game for about a month now, and you've actually done one of the challenges, the 30-day challenge. Tell us, has it improved your fitness at all?
Certain aspects. For me, the biggest positive was working my leg muscles. I've actually had a really sore knee, and so it's been good to work my thighs. A lot of the exercises are squats or holding squats, lunges, that sort of thing on my legs, so I felt things really improved there. For me, I didn't get my heart rate up super high doing this game. For me, it was more about a all-over toning type resistance workout.
How easy is this game for someone who's never exercised before in their life and is looking to improve their health and well-being?
That's sort of hard for me to answer as someone who
has exercised a lot in their life. But let's say you're a gamer who has never exercised and wants to improve, the way you look and feel and stuff. So have you found this like relatively easy?
Yeah, I think the good part about it is you can exercise at any level that you want to. So if you're just starting out, you would make the resistance band longer by where you stand on it. You can do a lower intensity. You can do shorter workouts. You can tailor your workouts. So if you've never exercised before, you mightn't start with a 30-day challenge. So you modify it. I was more the other side because I came from a fitness background. I thought it wouldn't be hard enough for me. But I was quite surprised when I couldn't walk about 3 days after I started doing it. As I said, there's a lot of slow sort of squatting or slow exercises with your arms, and that's one good thing about having that personal trainer there, because they tell you to slow down and do things at a slower pace, and that's obviously what makes your muscles quite sore.
Alright, think Monkey Island mixed with Day of the Tentacle, right? And then we throw in a little Fallout 3, and then maybe like a dash of Zac Efron, and then we have like Drugosaurus, who will guide you through life's wonders without the use of drugs.
I don't know, it doesn't sound that interesting to me.
Okay, what if I told you that Peter Molyneux had already signed off on this?
No.
Okay, what if I told you Tim Schafer was doing the script?
Look, really, thanks for coming. But
what about Ron Perlman as the voice of Drugosaurus?
Barbara, security, please.
From fitness games to sad cases of teenage obesity, we're going to talk about Fat Princess now, which is a new multiplayer game coming out in the PSN for the PS3, which I also luckily got to play at Game Developers Conference this year.
Brandy, give me the download on this one.
Okay, so essentially it's a capture the flag type game. So lots of players basically online, different classes, different teams, but instead of a flag that you have to capture, you actually have to capture a fat princess.
How do you do that though? Like,
she's not actually fat to begin with, first of all, so she's not
Big
obese
boned.
from the start. You know, she's big boned.
Husky.
Yeah, but basically you have two sort of castles, which serves as your forts, and basically you have a princess in each that you have to protect. And the whole objective of the game is to grab the other team's princess. Now you can actually make that a little bit harder by feeding your princess cake. You can find cake just strewn around in the playfield. The more cake you give her, the fatter she'll get. The fatter she'll get, the harder it is to actually move her because she's sadly obese. On the flip side of that, though, she has a really high metabolism. So if you leave her for long enough, she'll start getting skinny again, and therefore the whole sort of cycle of fat princess violence continues.
Now, you mentioned this one's an online game. How many players are we talking about here?
It supports actually a lot of players. They're saying 32 players online at once through the PlayStation Network.
32 per team or 32 total?
32 in total, so it'll be 16 person teams each. In terms of, I guess I mentioned the classes before, there'll be 5 different classes that you'll get to play in this game. They're your typical, archetypal characters. You have a worker, fighter, mage, an archer, a cleric. The good thing is you can actually upgrade these guys to a secondary ability. For example, as a worker, I mean, your main ability is you got an axe and you can chop down trees and gather resources and stuff. But if you upgrade the worker, you'll eventually be able to throw bombs with them, that type of thing.
Okay.
So it's it's really, I guess, good in that way. The great thing about it is you can actually change classes mid-game, so you can't, you don't have to just decide at the start what class you'll be, and you're stuck with that for an entire game. Because the way it works is at your base there are structures that basically generate hats. And basically these hats are what you use to change classes. So if you pick up a worker hat, put it on, you become a worker. If you get tired of that, you go pick up a fighter hat, you become a fighter. And the cool thing is you can also pick up hats of your fallen enemies. So if you're in the middle of a raid and you decide, wait, we actually need a cleric right now because our fighters are getting wailed on, you can pick up a cleric hat and change from there.
So what about the hats themselves? Just certain classes, are they only able to collect cake, or can everybody grab it?
Everybody can grab cake, but obviously the different classes are stuck to their ability. There's a little bit of resource, like a light sort of resource collecting thing to this, because I mentioned the worker being able to collect, wood and some minerals. Basically, you use that to build siege engines or defense turrets for your actual castle. But you can also use it to upgrade the hat generating machine things. So, and this is how you get that secondary ability. If you upgrade those machines, you get your second, you get your secondary ability, and it's working pretty well so far.
How does it feel like? What are the controls like in the game?
It feels fairly smooth. So it's all mapped to obviously the PlayStation controller. No motion sensitive controls yet that I've found so far, which is awesome. I played this at GDC, as I mentioned, at the PlayStation Bloggers Lounge. So it wasn't like a full game was going on. I think there was maybe 6 or 7 playing at once, so I didn't get that full sort of hardcore experience of what a 32-player match would be.
Did it
like.
work all right though, with only a fraction of the intended amount of players?
Yeah, it actually did. There's going to be quite a lot of strategy to it, because even though there's only 5 classes, there's a lot of strategy that is involved with that. You do need to plan your attacks quite well. Usually you can't do anything solo, so if you try to do the princess on your own, and that sounds really weird, if you try and collect the princess on your own, it's going to be impossible, because
you need to take friends.
You'll need to take friends
get the princess
and plan it properly, because the more people you have actually trying to carry the princess, the faster she'll go, no matter how fat she is.
You just drag her if she's too
heavy. You can just drag her, yeah. So I don't know what this actually says about,
well, there was a lot of controversy on this one.
Yeah.
With the overeating societies.
Yeah, I guess that's why they put the high metabolism in there, and she's always working out, and the fact that she's actually caged, your princess. So you're force feeding a chip. Anyway, let's not get into the politics of Fat Princess. It looks like a pretty fun game.
Yeah, but graphically, how does it look?
Yeah, if you guys have actually seen any of the trailer stuff, you'll know it looks very cartoony, very bright, almost cell shaded type thing, all set in a medieval universe. And that's sort of juxtaposed with all the blood and guts that actually happen with it. So there's quite a lot of blood that happens every time you kill someone. But if you're trying to be a bit kid-friendly, you can actually turn a lot of that stuff off.
Okay. Have we got a release date for this one?
There's no exact release date for Australia as yet. That is to be announced, but it's coming out in Q2, planned to be Q2 in the US. We also actually managed to get some time with one of the developers from Titan Studios when we saw Fat Princess at GDC, and here's what he had to say. Hey, this is Randolph here. We're at the Sony Bloggers Lounge at the GDC to talk to Craig Lee, the lead designer for Fat Princess. G'day, Craig. How are you?
Hey, nice to meet you, Randolph.
First of all, mate, tell us what you're showing of Fat Princess at GDC.
We're just showing the latest version of the build and giving everyone a sort of first look at where we're up to.
Okay, so for people who don't know what the game is all about, can you give us a bit of a brief on what they can expect from Fat Princess?
Sure. Quick snapshot. It's a crazy, fun 32-player, what we call a tactical team action game. It contains elements of class-based strategy, resource collection for upgrades, fast bloody combat, all within like specially created sandbox environments. So it's all about jumping in, having fun with your friends, and just having a really good time.
So it is Capture the Flag, but it's actually Capture the Princess this time now, is that right?
There are 4 different game modes, and the main one is Rescue the Princess. And yeah, in essence, it's Capture the Flag, but the flag's a beautiful princess.
But she gets fatter, is that right?
Well, one of the mechanics of the game is you can feed cake to the princess to make her heavier, and so hence harder to carry, but there's other mechanics to counter that. As a team, you can work together to escort and still move her quickly, but it is one of the defensive strategies of the game and the title of the game.
So tell us about the type of units you'll be able to play in the game.
There are 5 different classes. There's the sort of classics. There's a warrior, a ranger, a mage, a priest, and a worker, and they've all designed to have their own special roles. Some sort of the workers' resource collection and building siege weapons like springboards and seesaws and ladders to help the team get into the enemy castle, whereas the warrior and ranger are sort of offensive classes with their own special abilities, like the warrior has a shield to protect against projectile attacks, and then the priest is a support class. He's healing his teammates, and then the mage is sort of crowd control. The fire mage sets people on fire, lights bombs with the fuses and stuff. But then when he's upgraded, he's an ice mage, and he's freezing people and sort of he is crowd control. So it's the real mixture of how the players play together in those classes that make the game really unique, because there's so much strategy in the game.
I gotta say, I really like your art style. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. We wanted an art style that was really fitting to the sort of cheeky, irreverent nature of the game, and we loved the idea of the juxtaposition of sort of the cute style and the blood. It sort of makes it really original, and when you see Fat Princess, you know it's Fat Princess. But of course, you can always turn the blood off. We're child-friendly too.
Okay, so you mentioned 32-player multiplayer. Is there a single-player component to this at all?
I think people will be surprised how big Fat Princess really is. There is a big single-player game. It's just as fun as the multiplayer game. There's a story mode, which uncovers the legend of the Fat Princess and where the cake came from, and how this feud ensued. And then there's a game type called Mess About, where you can practice the multiplayer games and environments. And then there's like a challenge mode, which we call Gladiate, which is like a gladiatorial arena, and you get waves and waves of enemies, and it really allows you to practice each of the classes and how you counter other classes. So the single player is just as big, just as chaotic. You can go in, play against 32 AI bots, and we've put in a lot of work with like systems for we call AI assist, which you can ask the AI to help you and they follow you and assist you and stuff. So we've done a lot to make the single player just as big and fun as the multiplayer.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Finally, can you tell us how people can get Fat Princess and when is it out?
Well, Fat Princess is exclusive to PSN on the PlayStation Store, and it will be out very soon this summer, I promise.
Okay, so you know how everyone really, really likes achievements in games? What if instead of trophies and rewards, what if every time you unlock something in the game, it shoots a fine mist of blow out through the console?
Look, I'm going to stop you right there because I don't have you on my list. And how did you get in here?
Hey, do you mind if I shoot up in here, man? You got a belt?
We're going to move on to community competitions and game releases now, which is Mr. James Kozanecki's area. James, let's start with competitions, mate. What can people win by going to the site?
Alright, we're giving away a copy of X-Men Origins on the platform of your choice thanks to the Ozbot. All you have to do is go to www.gamespot.com.au/comps and you can enter through that.
Thanks for that, James. And we're going to touch a little bit on community here because last week, if you saw last week's show, we had a versus mode where we ask you to vote on the superhero genre. Do they suck mainly, or are they really awesome mainly?
The people have spoken.
The people have spoken. I took the positive side. You took that superhero games mainly suck. And superhero games suck won convincingly, 73% to 27% of votes said superhero games suck.
Superman 64.
Yeah, that was what pushed it over.
Okay, all right. One bad apple ruins
And
it.
you know, I will be the first to admit there have been some great superhero games, but that offset is pretty bad.
Okay, well, stay tuned for some more versus mode in the coming weeks. In the meantime, cause it is a light week for game releases, but take us through them.
It's a very light week actually. Okay, probably the biggest game this week is Phantasy Star Portable for the PSP. There's also Ultimate Band for the PS2, Wii and DS. And last but not least is Disney Penguin Club Elite Penguin Force for the DS.
And I must make our sincere apologies to the GameSpot crew. We don't have a review or a preview yet of Elite Penguin Force, but if you guys just, stay tuned to the site, we're on it. And I think that is it for this week's Crosshairs. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you for next week's show.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.